The morning sun cast long shadows across the streets of charming California as Tyler Grant revved his motorcycle outside the Riverside Cafe. At 26 years old, Tyler had learned to embrace the grind of delivery work. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and gave him the freedom of the open road. His black helmet sat securely on his head as he checked his phone for the next delivery order. The screen glowed with a notification. Pick-up coffee order for Marcus Bellamy at Riverside Cafe. Deliver to Bellamy Real Estate Development, downtown Charming. Tyler parked his bike near the cafe entrance, the chrome gleaming under the California sunshine. The air smelled of freshly ground coffee beans and baked pastries. Inside, the cafe buzzed with the usual Monday morning energy. Business people in pressed suits tapping on laptops, students with textbooks spread across tables, and the steady hum of the espresso machine creating a comforting soundtrack. Behind the counter, Sarah Mitchell, a barista in her early 30s with tired eyes and a genuine smile, prepared the order. Large black coffee, extra hot, right? She confirmed, glancing at the ticket. That's the one, Tyler replied, leaning against the counter. Marcus Bellamy. Guy must really need his caffeine fix this morning. Sarah's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of something, concern, perhaps, crossing her face. Be careful with that one, Tyler. Mr. Bellamy has a reputation for being difficult. Tyler shrugged, offering a reassuring smile. I've dealt with difficult customers before. I'll be fine. As Sarah handed him the carefully secured coffee cup in its insulated carrier, the cafe door swung open with more force than necessary. Marcus Bellamy strode in, his presence immediately commanding attention. At 48 years old, Marcus embodied wealth and arrogance in equal measure. His tailored charcoal suit probably cost more than Tyler made in 3 months. His salt and pepper hair was perfectly styled. His Italian leather shoes clicked authoritatively against the tile floor, and his Rolex caught the light as he gestured impatiently. "Where's my coffee?" Marcus demanded, his voice cutting through the ambient noise. "I ordered it 20 minutes ago." Sarah stepped forward, professional despite the tension. "Mr. Bellamy, your order is ready. This is Tyler. He's your delivery driver." "I didn't ask for a biography," Marcus snapped, his cold blue eyes fixing on Tyler with undisguised disdain. "I asked where my coffee was." Tyler straightened, keeping his voice calm and respectful. "Sir, I have your order right here. I was just about to..." "About to what?" "Take another 5 minutes while my coffee gets cold?" Marcus moved closer, invading Tyler's personal space. The tension in the cafe intensified. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir." "Marcus Bellamy. Your coffee is..." "I'm the man who owns half this town," Marcus continued, his voice dripping with condescension. "I'm the man who could buy and sell you 100 times over. I'm the man whose time is worth more in 1 minute than you'll make in a year driving around on that pathetic excuse for transportation." Tyler's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. Years of customer service had taught him patience, even in the face of unreasonable behavior. "Sir, I understand you're in a hurry. Your coffee is ready, extra hot as requested. Let you just what?" Marcus's face reddened, his anger escalating irrationally. "Let you waste more of my time with your excuses?" What happened next occurred in a blur of motion that would replay in Tyler's mind for days to come. Marcus snatched the coffee cup from the carrier in Tyler's hands, his movements aggressive and deliberate. But instead of taking a sip or walking away, Marcus did something that defied logic and basic human decency. With a twisted expression of rage and superiority, Marcus threw the scalding hot coffee directly into Tyler's face. The liquid hit like liquid fire. Tyler's scream pierced the cafe, As his hands flew to his face, the coffee burning his skin, his eyes, his neck. The pain was immediate and excruciating, a searing, all-consuming agony that dropped him to his knees. The cafe erupted in chaos. Sarah screamed, rushing from behind the counter. Other customers jumped to their feet, some pulling out phones to call 911, others frozen in shock. "That's what happens when people waste my time," Marcus said coldly, dropping the empty cup onto the floor beside Tyler's writhing form. "Maybe next time you'll learn some efficiency." Through the haze of pain, Tyler heard Sarah's voice, urgent and panicked, calling for an ambulance. He felt hands on his shoulders, other customers trying to help. Someone pressing cool, wet napkins to his burned face. But mostly, he felt the burning. The relentless, consuming fire on his skin that made every breath feel like inhaling flames. "Don't touch your face, honey," an older woman's voice said gently. "Help is coming. Just breathe." Tyler tried to open his eyes, but the pain was too intense. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Whether from the burns or the overwhelming humiliation, he couldn't tell. The cafe door chimed, and through the ringing in his ears, he heard Marcus's footsteps retreating, unhurried and unconcerned. "Someone stop him!" a male voice shouted. "He can't just leave!" But Marcus was already gone, disappearing into his silver Mercedes, parked illegally in front of the cafe. The engine roared to life, and he drove away as if nothing had happened, leaving behind a scene of chaos and a young man whose life had just been irrevocably altered. The paramedics arrived within 7 minutes, though it felt like hours to Tyler. They carefully examined his burns, their professional demeanor unable to hide their concern. Second-degree burns on the face and neck, one paramedic reported to her partner. Possible eye damage. "We need to get him to Charming Memorial immediately." As they loaded Tyler onto the stretcher, Sarah gripped his hand briefly. "I got it all on the security camera," she whispered urgently. "That bastard won't get away with this. I promise." The ambulance ride was a blur of sirens and pain medication that barely touched the edges of Tyler's agony. At the hospital, Dr. Rebecca Thornton, the emergency physician on duty, took one look at his injuries and immediately called for the burn specialist. "Tyler, I need you to stay with me." "Doctor," Thornton said, her voice firm but compassionate. "We're going to take care of you. Can you tell me what happened?" Through gritted teeth, fighting the pain and the medication making him drowsy, Tyler managed to whisper, "A man threw coffee, hot coffee, in my face." Dr. Thornton's expression hardened. This wasn't an accident? Tyler shook his head slightly, the movement sending fresh waves of pain through his burned skin. He did it. On purpose. The doctor exchanged glances with the nurses. "We're documenting this as an assault. The police will want to talk to you once you're stabilized." As the medical team worked to clean and treat his burns, Tyler's phone buzzed repeatedly in the bag the paramedics had brought with him. Messages from his delivery app, wondering where he was. Notifications about missed deliveries. And one text message that would prove to be the most important of his life. It was from Daniel Shaw, Tyler's best friend since high school, and a mechanic at Teller Morrow Automotive Repair. The message was simple. "Heard what happened at Riverside. I'm at the hospital. Jax is with me. We got you, brother." Tyler's burned lips attempted a painful smile. If there was anyone in Charming who could make things right, it was Jax Teller. The man was a legend in this town, not because of wealth or status, but because of loyalty, integrity, and an unwavering commitment to protecting the people he cared about. In the waiting room, Jax Teller sat with Daniel Shaw, his blue eyes dark with controlled anger as Daniel recounted what he'd learned from Sarah Mitchell's frantic phone call. Jax was 37 years old, with a commanding presence that came not from aggression, but from quiet confidence. His leather jacket bore the marks of years on the road. His calloused hands spoke of hard work, and his reputation in charming was unshakable. "He just threw the coffee?" Jax asked quietly, his voice steady but carrying an edge that Daniel recognized. It was the tone Jax used when someone had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. "Right in his face, man," Daniel confirmed, running a hand through his dark hair. "Tyler didn't do anything to provoke it. The guy just went off because he thought his time was being wasted." Jax stood, his tall frame unfolding as he paced the waiting room. Other people instinctively gave him space, sensing the controlled fury radiating from him. "What's the asshole's name?" "Marcus Bellamy. He owns Bellamy Real Estate Development. Big shot developer, thinks he runs this town." "Not anymore," Jax said quietly. "Not after this." A nurse emerged from the treatment area, her expression sympathetic. "Are you here for Tyler Grant?" Both men stepped forward. "How is he?" Daniel asked urgently. "He has second-degree burns on approximately 15% of his facial area and neck," the nurse explained. "Dr. Thornton is still assessing potential eye damage. He's stable, but he's in significant pain. We're keeping him for observation and starting him on burn treatment protocols." "Can we see him?" Jax asked. "Not yet, but he's asking for someone named Daniel." "Are you Daniel Shaw?" "That's me. He wanted me to tell you something." The nurse consulted her notes. He said, "Tell Daniel that Marcus Bellamy did this. Make sure Jax knows." "Does that mean something to you?" Jax and Daniel exchanged looks. "Yeah," Jax said softly. "It means everything." As the nurse returned to the treatment area, Jax pulled out his phone and made a call. The voice that answered was female, professional, and efficient. "Michelle, it's Jax Teller. I need you to run a complete background check on someone. Marcus Bellamy, Bellamy Real Estate Development. I want everything: financial records, business dealings, personal life, legal issues, everything. And I need it by tonight." Michelle Rodriguez, a private investigator Jax had worked with for years, didn't ask questions. "Consider it done." Jax ended the call and turned to Daniel. "Go home, get some rest. I'm staying here with Tyler tonight." "Jax, what are you going to do?" Jax's expression was calm, but his eyes held a promise that made Daniel both relieved and slightly apprehensive. "I'm going to make sure Marcus Bellamy understands that actions have consequences. And I'm going to make sure Tyler gets justice." "How?" "Not with violence," Jax assured him, reading Daniel's concern. "I'm not that man anymore. But there are other ways to make someone face what they've done. Trust me." As night fell over Charming, Tyler Grant lay in a hospital bed, his face wrapped in specialized burn dressings, his future uncertain. Marcus Bellamy sat in his luxury penthouse, sipping expensive scotch, already dismissing the morning's incident as inconsequential. And Jax Teller sat in a hospital waiting room chair, making phone calls and setting plans into motion that would ensure Marcus Bellamy's comfortable world came crashing down around him. The burning humiliation Tyler experienced that morning was just the beginning. But it wouldn't be Tyler who bore the ultimate shame. That honor was reserved for the man who thought his money made him untouchable. Marcus Bellamy was about to learn a lesson in humility he would never forget. The morning after the assault, Charming awoke to news that spread through the small California town like wildfire. Sarah Mitchell had posted the security camera footage to social media, and within hours it had gone viral. The video was clear, damning, and impossible to misinterpret. Marcus Bellamy, prominent businessman and real estate developer, deliberately throwing scalding coffee into the face of an innocent delivery driver. By 8 a.m., the video had been shared over 50,000 times. By noon, it had reached 500,000. Local news stations picked it up. Then regional networks. By evening, National media outlets were running the story with headlines like "California businessman assaults delivery driver in shocking attack" and "Wealthy developer's coffee rage caught on camera." Marcus Bellamy first learned about the viral video from his executive assistant, Jennifer Walsh, who appeared at his office door at 9:15 a.m., her face pale and her hands trembling slightly as she held out her tablet. "Mr. Bellamy, we have a situation," Jennifer said, her voice tight with barely concealed alarm. Marcus looked up from the architectural plans spread across his mahogany desk, irritation flashing across his features. "What kind of situation?" "I have a meeting with the City Planning Commission in an hour. You might want to cancel that meeting." Jennifer placed the tablet on his desk, the video already playing. "This is everywhere, sir. Every social media platform, every news site. People are calling the office. Reporters are gathering downstairs." Marcus watched the video, his expression shifting from confusion to recognition to something darker. Not remorse, but anger at being caught. Who posted this? The barista from Riverside Cafe, Sarah Mitchell. She captioned it, "This is Marcus Bellamy, wealthy real estate developer, assaulting Tyler Grant, a 26-year-old delivery driver who was just doing his job. Tyler is now in the hospital with second-degree burns. Share this so everyone knows what kind of man Marcus Bellamy really is." Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. "That's defamation. I want our lawyers on this immediately. I want that video taken down, and I want that barista sued for everything she has." Jennifer hesitated. "Sir, with all due respect, the video clearly shows what happened. Our legal team says we don't have grounds for defamation when the footage is authentic. They're recommending you issue a public apology and—" "I'm not apologizing for anything," Marcus snapped. "That kid was incompetent. This is being blown completely out of proportion. Mr. Bellamy, Tyler Grant is in the hospital with serious burns. The police have already been in contact with our office. They're treating this as assault. Detective Lisa Patterson called personally. She wants you to come in for questioning." For the first time, a flicker of genuine concern crossed Marcus's face. Assault? It was just coffee. Boiling hot coffee thrown deliberately into someone's face, Jennifer said, her professional veneer cracking slightly to reveal her own disgust. "Sir, this is serious. You need to take this seriously." Marcus stood, straightening his tie with sharp, angry movements. "Fine. Get our lawyers on the phone and clear my schedule for today. But I'm not going down for this. Do you understand? I've worked too hard to build this company to let some oversensitive delivery boy ruin it." What Marcus didn't know was that across town, in a conference room at Teller Morrow Automotive, Jax Teller was orchestrating a much more comprehensive response. Surrounding him were people he trusted: Daniel Shaw, Michelle Rodriguez with her background check files, Sarah Mitchell, and two other individuals whose presence would prove crucial: Officer Thomas Green, a patrol cop who'd grown up in charming and respected Jax, and Amanda Foster, a civil rights attorney who specialized in assault cases. "Okay, let's go through what we have," Jax said, his voice calm and methodical. The conference room table was covered with documents, printouts, and Michelle's detailed investigative reports. Michelle stood, distributing folders to everyone present. Marcus Bellamy is 48 years old, founder and CEO of Bellamy Real Estate Development. On paper, he's worth approximately $45 million. But here's where it gets interesting. She opened her folder to a page marked with red tabs. Bellamy's business is leveraged to the breaking point. He's carrying massive debt from 3 failed development projects in the past 2 years. His company is essentially a house of cards held together by aggressive marketing and his personal reputation. "So he's not as rich as he pretends to be," Daniel observed. "Exactly. He lives beyond his means to maintain an image. The penthouse is leased, not owned. The Mercedes is leased. He's got significant personal debt and several angry investors who've lost money on his failed projects. Officer Green leaned forward. What about criminal history? 2 previous incidents, Michelle continued. 3 years ago, he was involved in an altercation at a golf club where he allegedly shoved another member. Settled out of court. Last year, an employee filed a workplace harassment complaint. Verbal abuse, threats, intimidation. Also settled out of court with a non-disclosure agreement. Amanda Foster, the attorney, made notes as Michelle spoke. So we have a pattern of aggressive behavior, settlements that suggest previous wrongdoing, and financial instability that might explain his increasingly volatile temperament. This is good. This builds a case. Jax hadn't spoken much, but everyone in the room was acutely aware of his presence. The quiet intensity with which he listened, the way his jaw tightened at each new piece of information about Bellamy's character. Finally, he spoke. "What's Tyler's condition?" Sarah, who had visited the hospital that morning, answered, "He's stable, but in a lot of pain. The burns are serious, 2nd degree across his left cheek, jaw, and neck. They're still evaluating potential damage to his left eye. Dr. Thornton says he'll need skin grafts and possibly reconstructive surgery. He'll have scarring, definitely. And the psychological trauma." She trailed off, emotion catching in her throat. "Has he given a statement to the police?" Officer Green asked. "Detective Patterson took his statement last night," Sarah confirmed. "Tyler was very clear about what happened. It was unprovoked assault." Amanda Foster tapped her pen against her notepad. "Here's what we're looking at legally. Criminal charges, assault with caustic chemicals, which in California can carry up to 4 years in prison. Civil suit. Tyler can sue for medical expenses, pain and suffering, emotional distress, lost wages, and potentially punitive damages, given the egregious nature of the assault. With the video evidence, this is as close to a slam-dunk case as you can get." "But," Jax prompted, sensing hesitation, "but Marcus Bellamy has resources. He'll hire the best defense attorneys money can buy. He'll try to settle quickly to make this go away. And Tyler," Amanda hesitated. "Tyler is a 26-year-old delivery driver with no savings, no insurance beyond basic coverage. And he's about to be buried under medical bills he can't afford. The power dynamic here is significant." Jax's expression hardened. "Then we change the dynamic." Everyone looked at him. "Tyler's medical bills. I'll cover them, all of them. Treatment, surgery, recovery, everything. He focuses on healing, not on fighting with insurance companies or going into debt." "Jax, that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars," Daniel said carefully. "I don't care. Tyler's a good kid, and he was hurt because some rich asshole thinks money makes him better than everyone else. I'm not letting Tyler suffer because of that." Amanda nodded approvingly. "That's incredibly generous. It removes one of Bellamy's leverage points. What else?" Jax turned to Michelle. "You said Bellamy has angry investors. Can we reach out to them?" Michelle smiled grimly. "Already ahead of you. I have contact information for 5 major investors who've lost significant money on Bellamy's projects. They're not happy with him already. This public relations disaster might be the final straw that makes them pull their remaining support." "Good. Reach out to them. Don't tell them what to do. Just make sure they're aware of the full scope of the situation and the potential liability their continued association with Bellamy represents." Officer Green shifted uncomfortably. "Jax, I can share what's public knowledge about the investigation, but I can't compromise the case by—" Jax raised a hand. "I'm not asking you to do anything that compromises your integrity, Tom. I just need to know that this investigation is being taken seriously and that Marcus Bellamy isn't getting special treatment because of his money. Detective Patterson is solid, Green assured him. She doesn't play favorites. Bellamy's going to be arrested and charged. It's just a matter of when. Make sure it's soon, Jax said quietly. Every day that man walks free while Tyler's in the hospital is another day of injustice. Sarah spoke up. The video has over 2 million views now. People are furious. There's already talk of boycotting any business that works with Bellamy Real Estate. Several contractors have posted on social media that they're cutting ties with him. Good, Jax said. Let's make sure that momentum continues. Amanda, can you help Tyler file the civil suit? Absolutely. I'll work pro bono. This is exactly the kind of case that needs to be fought. Jax stood, signaling the meeting's conclusion. Here's what we're going to do. We support Tyler financially, emotionally, legally. We make sure he has everything he needs to recover. We let the legal process work, but we make sure Marcus Bellamy faces real consequences. No settlements that sweep this under the rug. No quiet disappearance. He hurt someone, and he needs to face that publicly. And when Bellamy realizes what's happening, Daniel asked, when his world starts falling apart, Jax's expression was calm but implacable. Then he'll learn what it feels like to be powerless. He'll learn what it's like when money can't buy you out of the consequences of your actions. And eventually, he'll come looking for mercy. Will you give it to him? Amanda asked, curious. That's not my decision, Jax replied. That's Tyler's decision. I'm just making sure Tyler has the power to make it. As the meeting dispersed, Jax remained behind, staring at the photograph of Tyler in the hospital that Sarah had shown them. The young man's face wrapped in bandages, his visible skin raw and damaged. Rage simmered beneath Jax's calm exterior, but it was controlled rage, purposeful rage. He'd learned long ago that revenge achieved nothing, but justice, real justice, that was worth fighting for. His phone rang. Detective Lisa Patterson. Jax, it's Lisa. I heard you're involved in the Tyler Grant case. Tyler's a friend. I'm making sure he's taken care of. I figured as much. Listen, I'm arresting Marcus Bellamy tomorrow morning. I wanted to give you a heads up. It's going to be public. We're doing it at his office with media present. Why tell me? Because I know you, Jax. I know how you operate when someone you care about gets hurt. I need your word that you'll let the system handle this, that you won't do anything that compromises my case. Jax was quiet for a moment. You have my word, Lisa. But understand something. If the system fails, if Bellamy walks away from this without facing real justice, then I'll handle it my way. Fair enough, but give me a chance first. You've got it. That evening, Marcus Bellamy sat in his penthouse, surrounded by 3 lawyers who were giving him news he didn't want to hear. They're going to arrest you, Ronald Pierce, his lead attorney, said bluntly. Detective Patterson has made it clear. You'll be charged with assault with caustic chemicals. You need to turn yourself in. Absolutely not, Marcus snapped. I'm not spending a night in jail like a common criminal. The alternative is being arrested publicly, which will be even worse for your image, another lawyer explained. If you turn yourself in, we can arrange bail immediately. You spend maybe an hour in processing, and you're out. Marcus poured himself a drink, his hands shaking slightly. Whether from anger or the first tremors of real fear, he couldn't tell. How bad is this? The lawyers exchanged glances. Ronald spoke carefully. Very bad, Marcus. The video is everywhere. Public opinion has turned completely against you. 3 of your investors have already called to pull their backing. 2 major construction firms have announced they're terminating their contracts with your company. And there's talk of criminal charges that could mean prison time. Prison? Marcus's voice rose. For throwing coffee? for assault, for deliberately causing serious bodily harm. The district attorney is making this a priority case because of the public attention. They want to make an example of you. For the first time since the incident, Marcus felt genuine fear. His carefully constructed world, built on intimidation, money, and the belief that he was untouchable, was crumbling. What do I do? You cooperate fully with the investigation. You show remorse. You offer a settlement to Tyler Grant that's generous enough to demonstrate accountability. And you pray the judge shows leniency. Marcus set down his glass, his mind racing. Find out everything you can about Tyler Grant. There has to be something we can use, some way to discredit him, to show he's just after money. Ronald Pierce shook his head. Marcus, that strategy will backfire spectacularly. The kid's a working-class delivery driver who was assaulted while doing his job. He's the most sympathetic victim imaginable. If you try to attack his character, you'll only make yourself look worse. Then what the hell am I paying you for? Marcus shouted. The lawyers stood, gathering their briefcases. We're giving you the best advice we can, Ronald said coldly. Whether you take it is up to you. But understand this, your best chance at minimizing the damage is to take responsibility, show genuine remorse, and try to make amends. Anything else will destroy you. After they left, Marcus stood at his penthouse window, looking out over Charming's nighttime skyline. Somewhere out there, Tyler Grant was in a hospital bed. Somewhere, people were celebrating the downfall of Marcus Bellamy. And somewhere, someone was orchestrating his ruin with methodical precision. Marcus didn't know Jax Teller's name yet, but he would soon. And when he did, he would realize that throwing hot coffee in a young man's face was the biggest mistake of his life. The arrest of Marcus Bellamy occurred at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, exactly 48 hours after the assault. Detective Lisa Patterson, flanked by 2 uniformed officers, walked into the glass and steel lobby of Bellamy Real Estate Development with the confidence of someone who knew she held all the cards. A cluster of reporters and camera crews, tipped off about the timing, waited outside, their equipment ready to capture every moment. Jennifer Walsh, Marcus's executive assistant, intercepted them at the reception desk. Detective Patterson, Mr. Bellamy's attorneys have been trying to reach you about arranging a voluntary surrender. The time for that has passed, Lisa replied coolly. Is Mr. Bellamy in his office? Yes, but... Then we're going up. The elevator ride to the 15th floor was silent, except for the soft classical music playing through the speakers. When the doors opened, Jennifer hurried ahead, trying one last time to warn her employer. But the detectives were right behind her. Marcus Bellamy was on the phone when his office door opened. He looked up, irritation flashing across his face, but it quickly transformed into something else when he saw the badges and the determined expression on Detective Patterson's face. I'll call you back, Marcus said into the phone, hanging up slowly. Detective Patterson stepped forward, her voice formal and clear. Marcus Bellamy, you're under arrest for assault with caustic chemicals. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be provided for you. This is ridiculous, Marcus said, but his voice lacked its usual authority. I've already arranged with my lawyers to turn myself in. Stand up and place your hands behind your back, Lisa instructed, pulling out handcuffs. You're not seriously going to handcuff me? That's standard procedure for an arrest, Mr. Bellamy. Now, I can do this the easy way or the hard way. But either way, you're coming with us. Marcus stood slowly, his face reddening with humiliation as Detective Patterson efficiently cuffed his wrists. Jennifer watched from the doorway, her expression a mixture of shock and something that might have been satisfaction. Other employees had emerged from their offices, drawn by the commotion, and they watched in stunned silence as their CEO was led away in handcuffs. The perp walk through the lobby was captured by every camera. Marcus Bellamy, in his expensive suit and handcuffs, being escorted by police officers while reporters shouted questions. "Mr. Bellamy, do you have any comment on the assault? Do you feel remorse for what you did to Tyler Grant? Are you prepared to go to prison?" Marcus kept his head down, saying nothing. But his expression was visible in every photograph and video, not apologetic, but angry and humiliated. The images would be splashed across every news outlet within the hour. At the police station, Marcus was processed like any other criminal. Fingerprinted, photographed, his personal effects confiscated. His lawyers arrived within 30 minutes, immediately arranging bail. But the damage was done. Marcus Bellamy, who had built his identity on power and superiority, had been reduced to a mugshot and a booking number. By the time he was released on a $100,000 bail 3 hours later, the story had evolved. News outlets weren't just covering the arrest. They were digging into Marcus's past, uncovering the previous incidents, the settlements, the pattern of aggression. Business reporters were analyzing Bellamy real estate development's financial troubles. Public relations experts were declaring his reputation unsalvageable. And at Charming Memorial Hospital, Tyler Grant watched the news coverage from his hospital bed, his face still bandaged, his emotions a complicated tangle of vindication, pain, and uncertainty about the future. Jax Teller sat beside him, quiet and steady. Daniel Shaw occupied the chair on the other side, while Sarah Mitchell had brought flowers that now brightened the sterile hospital room. "He looked scared," Tyler said softly, his voice muffled by the bandages. "In the video of his arrest, he looked scared." "Good," Daniel said fiercely. "He should be scared after what he did to you." But Jax was watching Tyler carefully. "How do you feel about it?" Tyler was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Part of me is glad he's facing consequences, but it doesn't change what happened to me. It doesn't take away the pain or fix my face." "No," Jax agreed. "Justice doesn't undo harm, but it does mean something. It means what happened to you mattered. That you matter." Dr. Thornton entered for afternoon rounds, reviewing Tyler's charts with practiced efficiency. "The burns are healing as well as can be expected. We'll need to continue the current treatment protocol for another week. Then we'll reassess for skin grafts. I've consulted with our plastic surgery department. Dr. Michael Chen is one of the best reconstructive surgeons in California. He's reviewed your case and is willing to take you on as a patient." "I can't afford a plastic surgeon," Tyler said, anxiety creeping into his voice. "It's covered," Jax said immediately. "All of it. Treatment, surgery, recovery, follow-up care. You focus on healing, not on bills." Tyler turned his head carefully toward Jax. "Why are you doing this for me?" "Because it's right. Because you shouldn't have to choose between healing and financial ruin. Because some asshole decided his coffee was more important than your humanity." Tears leaked from the corners of Tyler's eyes, dampening the bandages. "I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just focus on getting better." After Dr. Thornton left, Jax's phone rang. It was Michelle Rodriguez. "Jax, you need to hear this. 3 of Bellamy's major investors officially pulled out this morning. His company is essentially bankrupt. He's going to have to liquidate assets to pay his debts. The penthouse, the car, everything. It's all going to be repossessed." "How long before he loses everything?" "Weeks, maybe a month. His lawyers are probably advising bankruptcy proceedings." "Good. Keep me updated." As Jax ended the call, Sarah spoke up. "Is it wrong that I feel good about him suffering? After what he did?" "It's human," Jax replied. "But don't let it consume you. This isn't about revenge. It's about justice. There's a difference. What is the difference? Tyler asked. Jax considered the question. Revenge is about making someone hurt as much as they hurt you. Justice is about accountability and making sure it doesn't happen to someone else. Revenge is personal. Justice is principle. And which one is this? Ideally, justice. But that depends on what happens next. What happened next was that Marcus Bellamy's life continued its spectacular collapse. Within a week, 6 major clients had terminated their contracts with Bellamy Real Estate Development, citing the assault and the negative publicity. His company's remaining employees, 17 people, were laid off as the business folded. Marcus's wife, Catherine Bellamy, filed for divorce, releasing a statement through her attorney that she could not remain married to a man capable of such cruelty. The civil suit filed by Amanda Foster on Tyler's behalf sought $5 million in damages, a sum calculated to be devastating to Marcus, even in bankruptcy. The criminal trial was scheduled for 3 months out, and the district attorney's office made it clear they were seeking the maximum sentence. And through it all, Marcus Bellamy remained defiant in public, refusing to apologize, insisting the incident was being blown out of proportion. But in private, he was falling apart. 2 weeks after the arrest, Ronald Pierce, his lead attorney, delivered the news Marcus had been dreading. They're offering a plea deal. You plead guilty to assault with caustic chemicals. You serve 18 months in county jail. Pay Tyler Grant's medical expenses and accept a restraining order prohibiting contact with him. Marcus sat in what used to be his penthouse, now mostly empty, furniture repossessed, walls bare where expensive art had hung. 18 months in jail? It's better than the 4 years you could get if you go to trial and lose. And you will lose, Marcus. The video is incontrovertible evidence. I'm not going to prison. I can't. I won't survive it. Ronald's expression was cold. You should have thought about that before you assaulted someone. This is the best deal you're going to get. I strongly recommend you take it. And if I don't, then we go to trial. The jury sees that video. They hear Tyler Grant's testimony. They see his scars. And you get the maximum sentence, plus lose the civil case for millions of dollars. You'll spend years in prison and come out owing more than you could ever repay. Marcus put his head in his hands. Everything he'd built, everything he'd achieved, everything he'd used to define himself. Gone. Destroyed in a moment of irrational anger. All captured on video for the world to see. There has to be another way, Marcus whispered. There isn't. Not anymore. After Ronald left, Marcus did something he hadn't done in years. He broke down completely. Alone in his empty apartment, he cried from the overwhelming weight of losing everything. His company, his marriage, his reputation, his freedom. And for the first time since the incident, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered something uncomfortable. You deserve this. He pushed the thought away, but it persisted. You hurt someone. Badly. And you never even said you were sorry. Marcus pulled out his laptop and did something he'd avoided. He watched the video of his assault on Tyler Grant. Really watched it, seeing himself from the outside. The cruelty in his expression. The deliberate violence of his actions. Tyler's scream of pain. The immediate aftermath as the young man collapsed, writhing in agony. What kind of man does this? Marcus thought. What kind of monster am I? It was this thought, this first genuine crack in his armor of arrogance, that led Marcus to make a phone call he knew he had no right to make. He called his attorney. Ronald, I need you to set up a meeting. With who? With Tyler Grant. I need to talk to him. Absolutely not. That would violate. I need to apologize, Marcus interrupted, his voice breaking. I need to tell him I'm sorry. I need him to know I understand what I did was wrong. Ronald was silent for a long moment. Marcus, I can reach out through proper channels, but Tyler Grant is under no obligation to meet with you. In fact, his attorney will probably advise against it. Just try, please. I'll make inquiries, but don't hold your breath. When Amanda Foster received the request for Marcus Bellamy to meet with Tyler Grant, her immediate response was a flat no. But she brought it to Tyler anyway, in his hospital room where he was recovering from his first skin graft surgery. He wants to apologize? Tyler asked, his voice muffled by fresh bandages. That's what his attorney claims. But Tyler, you don't owe him anything. You don't need to listen to his apology or give him any kind of closure. Jax, who had been present for the conversation, spoke carefully. It's your choice, Tyler. But understand, this could be a manipulation tactic, a way for him to seem sympathetic before trial. Tyler was quiet, processing. Finally, he said, I want to hear what he has to say. Tyler, Amanda began. I need to, Tyler insisted. I need to look him in the eye and hear him say he's sorry. Even if it's not genuine, I need that moment. Jax studied Tyler's expression. You're sure? I'm sure. Then I'm coming with you, Jax said. And so is Amanda. You won't be alone with him for a second. 3 days later, the meeting was arranged in a conference room at Amanda Foster's law office. Security measures were in place. Neutral territory, attorneys present, strict time limits. Marcus Bellamy arrived early, looking nothing like the confident businessman from the video. He'd lost weight. His expensive suit hung slightly loose, and his eyes carried dark circles that spoke of sleepless nights. When Tyler entered, his face still bandaged, supported by Jax on one side and Daniel on the other, Marcus stood immediately, his expression crumbling. Tyler, Marcus began, his voice thick with emotion. I don't know how to... He stopped, overcome. And then, to everyone's surprise, Marcus Bellamy fell to his knees. I'm sorry, he said, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. There's no excuse, no justification. I hurt you because I was angry and arrogant, and I thought I was more important than you. And I was wrong. So completely, utterly wrong. The room was silent except for Marcus's choked sobs. Tyler looked down at the man who had burned him, who had caused so much pain, who had changed his life irreversibly, and he felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the first small stirring of it, the recognition that Marcus Bellamy was, after all, just human, flawed, broken, and now suffering the consequences of his actions. Stand up, Tyler said quietly. Marcus stood slowly, wiping his face. I'm not ready to forgive you, Tyler said clearly. What you did to me changed my life. I'll carry these scars forever. I've had nightmares every night. I'm afraid of hot liquids now. I flinch when people move too quickly around me. You did that. I know, Marcus whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. But, Tyler continued, I see that you're sorry, and I see that you've lost everything. And I think that maybe someday I might be able to forgive you. Not today, not soon, but someday. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. Jax had been watching the exchange with intense focus. Now he spoke, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. Marcus, here's what's going to happen. You're going to accept the plea deal. You're going to serve your time. You're going to pay Tyler's medical expenses and damages. And when you get out, you're going to spend the rest of your life being a better man than you were. I will, Marcus said immediately. I swear I will. And if you don't, Jax continued, if you ever hurt anyone like this again, There won't be lawyers and courts between us. Do you understand? Marcus met Jax's eyes and saw something there that made him nod quickly. I understand. As they prepared to leave, Marcus spoke one more time. Tyler, I know I have no right to ask, but would you be willing to speak at my sentencing? To tell the judge that I apologized? That I showed remorse? Amanda Foster started to object, but Tyler raised a hand. I'll think about it. In the car afterward, Daniel expressed what everyone was thinking. Did that just happen? Did Marcus Bellamy actually show genuine remorse? He did, Jax confirmed. Whether it lasts, whether he really changes, that remains to be seen. But in that moment, he was genuinely sorry. Does it change anything? Sarah asked. Tyler, sitting in the back seat, his bandaged face turned toward the window, answered quietly, It changes everything. It doesn't undo what happened, but it means something that he acknowledged it, that he took responsibility. Are you really going to speak at his sentencing? Daniel asked. Yes, Tyler said. Because if we want justice, not revenge, then we have to allow for the possibility of redemption. We have to allow people to face their mistakes and grow from them. Jax glanced at Tyler in the rearview mirror, a small smile crossing his face. You're a better person than I am, kid. No, Tyler replied. I just had a good teacher. The wheels of justice continued to turn. Marcus Bellamy accepted the plea deal. Tyler Grant continued his recovery, undergoing multiple surgeries that would eventually minimize but never erase the scars. And Jax Teller watched it all, satisfied that in this case, at least, the system had worked. But the story wasn't over yet. There was still the sentencing hearing, where everything would come to its final conclusion, where Marcus Bellamy would face the full weight of his actions, and Tyler Grant would have to decide how much mercy was appropriate for a man who had shown none. 3 months after hot coffee scarred his face and changed his life forever, Tyler Grant stood in front of his bathroom mirror, examining the results of his 3rd reconstructive surgery. Dr. Michael Chen had performed miracles. The angry red burns had faded to pale pink scars that followed the left side of his jaw and neck. With time, they would fade further, but they would never completely disappear. Tyler traced the scars with careful fingers, remembering the pain, the fear, the moment his life divided into before and after. But he also remembered the support he'd received, Jax's unwavering assistance, the community's outrage on his behalf, Amanda Foster's fierce legal advocacy, and yes, even Marcus Bellamy's tearful apology. Today was Marcus's sentencing hearing. Tyler had agreed to speak, but he still wasn't entirely sure what he would say. You ready? Daniel called from the living room of Tyler's apartment. Jax, Sarah, and Amanda were all there, a support system that had formed around Tyler during his recovery. As ready as I'll ever be, Tyler replied, emerging from the bathroom. Jax stood, studying Tyler with that careful, assessing look that missed nothing. You don't have to do this. You don't owe Bellamy anything. I know, but I need to. For myself. The charming county courthouse was packed. The media interest in the case had never waned. The viral video, the powerful businessman's fall from grace, the working-class victim who'd shown unexpected grace under pressure. Every seat in the courtroom was filled. Cameras lined the hallway outside, and reporters jostled for position. Marcus Bellamy sat at the defense table between his attorneys, looking diminished in his ill-fitting suit. His wife had divorced him. His company was in bankruptcy. His assets liquidated to pay debts, and Tyler's civil settlement. He'd spent the past 3 months in a kind of limbo, awaiting this moment when his fate would be decided. When Marcus saw Tyler enter, accompanied by Jax and the others, he didn't look away in shame or anger. Instead, he nodded slightly. an acknowledgement that carried weight. Judge Margaret Hernandez, a stern woman in her early 60s with a reputation for fairness and little tolerance for excuses, called the hearing to order. We're here for the sentencing of Marcus Anthony Bellamy, who has pleaded guilty to assault with caustic chemicals. Before I pronounce sentence, I'll hear from the victim, Tyler Grant, and then from the defendant. Mr. Grant, please approach. Tyler walked to the front of the courtroom, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. He carried a handwritten statement, but when he stood at the podium, he folded it and set it aside. Your Honor, 3 months ago, I was just a delivery driver doing my job. I didn't know Marcus Bellamy. I had no reason to think that morning would be any different from any other. But in less than a minute, my life changed completely. Tyler's voice was steady, but emotion underscored every word. Marcus Bellamy threw boiling hot coffee in my face because he thought his time was more valuable than my humanity. He didn't see me as a person, just as an inconvenience. And because of that moment of anger and arrogance, I ended up in the hospital with second-degree burns. Several jurors from the grand jury that had indicted Marcus were present in the gallery. Their expressions were somber as Tyler continued. I've had 3 surgeries so far, with more scheduled. I have scars that will be with me for the rest of my life. I have nightmares. I have anxiety around hot liquids. Simple things that most people don't think twice about. Ordering coffee, heating up soup. They trigger panic attacks now. Tyler paused, looking directly at Marcus. What you did to me wasn't just physical assault. It was psychological trauma that I'm still working through. You didn't just burn my skin. You burned away my sense of safety in the world. Marcus's eyes were red, tears streaming silently down his face. But, Tyler continued, I also want the court to know that Marcus Bellamy did something that many people in his position don't do. He apologized. Not through lawyers or press releases, but face to face. He took responsibility for his actions. He showed genuine remorse. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. This wasn't the testimony people had expected. I'm not saying what he did should be excused or minimized, Tyler clarified. The harm was real, and there need to be consequences. But I believe in the possibility of redemption. I believe people can learn from their mistakes and become better. And I think Marcus Bellamy is trying to do that. Tyler looked at Judge Hernandez. So, I'm asking the court to consider his remorse when determining his sentence. Not to let him off easy, but to acknowledge that he's taken responsibility, that he's shown he understands the gravity of what he did. Thank you, Mr. Grant, Judge Hernandez said, her expression unreadable. Mr. Bellamy, do you wish to make a statement before sentencing? Marcus stood slowly, his attorneys flanking him but staying silent. He approached the podium, his movements careful, as if he were afraid he might shatter. Your Honor, I stand before you as a man who has lost everything. My business, my marriage, my reputation, my freedom, all gone because of a choice I made in a moment of irrational anger. Marcus's voice shook, but he continued. I could stand here and make excuses. I could talk about the stress I was under, the financial pressures, the bad morning I was having, but none of that matters. He turned slightly to face Tyler. What matters is that I hurt another human being in a cruel, deliberate, and inexcusable way. Tyler Grant was just doing his job, and I assaulted him because I felt inconvenienced. I need to say that out loud. Own it completely. I assaulted an innocent person because I thought my time and my comfort were more important than his well-being. Marcus wiped his eyes. The video that went viral showed the worst version of myself. A man consumed by arrogance and entitlement. A man who had forgotten basic human decency. And I'm ashamed of that man. I'm ashamed that I became someone capable of such cruelty." He looked back at Judge Hernandez. "I accept full responsibility for my actions. I deserve to be punished. I deserve to face consequences that make it clear this behavior is unacceptable. And I promise the court, I promise Tyler Grant, and I promise myself that I will spend the rest of my life being better than I was." "Thank you, Mr. Bellamy. Be seated." Judge Hernandez reviewed her notes, the courtroom holding its collective breath. "I've presided over many cases in my 20 years on the bench," Judge Hernandez began, "but few have captured public attention quite like this one. And I think that's because this case represents something larger than just one assault. It represents a question our society is grappling with. Are wealthy, powerful people held to the same standards as everyone else? Do they face the same consequences when they harm others?" She looked at Marcus. "Mr. Bellamy, you threw scalding hot coffee in Tyler Grant's face. The evidence, particularly the video footage, is incontrovertible. This was not an accident. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate act of violence, motivated by anger and entitlement." Marcus nodded, not looking away. "In determining your sentence, I've considered several factors: the severity of the harm you caused, significant physical injury and psychological trauma, your lack of criminal history prior to this incident, the plea agreement you accepted, which spared the court and Mr. Grant the ordeal of a trial, and most significantly, the genuine remorse you've demonstrated." Judge Hernandez paused. Mr. Grant's testimony was particularly compelling. He would have been well within his rights to demand the maximum sentence. Instead, he spoke of redemption and growth. That shows remarkable character on his part. "However," she continued, her tone hardening, "I cannot and will not send a message that wealth or status insulates someone from consequences. You assaulted another person, Mr. Bellamy. That requires punishment." The courtroom was absolutely silent. "Therefore, I hereby sentence you to 18 months in county jail, with credit for time served. You will pay restitution to Tyler Grant in the amount of $250,000 for medical expenses and pain and suffering. You will complete 500 hours of community service upon your release, and you will be subject to a permanent restraining order prohibiting any contact with Tyler Grant." Marcus's shoulders sagged with relief. 18 months, not 4 years. His attorneys looked satisfied with the outcome. But Judge Hernandez wasn't finished. "Additionally, I'm ordering that you participate in anger management counseling while incarcerated and for 2 years following your release. I'm ordering you to make a public apology, not through lawyers, but a personal video statement taking full responsibility for your actions and encouraging others to learn from your mistakes." "Yes, Your Honor," Marcus said quietly. "I want to be clear, Mr. Bellamy. You are receiving this sentence not because of your wealth or your attorneys, but because you've shown genuine remorse and because your victim spoke on your behalf. You owe Tyler Grant a debt that goes beyond money. You owe him the commitment to be a better person. Don't waste this opportunity." "I won't, Your Honor. I swear." This court is adjourned. As the gavel fell, Marcus turned immediately toward Tyler. The bailiffs allowed him 1 moment before taking him into custody. "Thank you," Marcus said, his voice breaking. "Thank you for your grace. I don't deserve it, but thank you." Tyler nodded. "Use this time to figure out who you want to be when you get out. Don't waste it." "I won't." As Marcus was led away in handcuffs, the courtroom erupted in conversation. Reporters rushed out to file their stories. Legal analysts debated whether the sentence was too lenient or appropriately balanced. But in the quiet corner where Tyler stood with his support system, there was only relief. "You did good, kid," Jax said, gripping Tyler's shoulder. "Real good. Do you think he'll actually change?" Sarah asked. "Maybe," Jax replied. "Maybe not. But Tyler gave him the chance. That's all anyone can do." Amanda Foster was already thinking ahead. "The restitution payment will help with your remaining medical bills and future surgeries. And the public apology will be important for closure." Tyler nodded, but he was watching through the courtroom windows as Marcus was loaded into a transport vehicle. "I hope he makes it," Tyler said softly. "I hope he comes out of this better." "Even after what he did to you?" Daniel asked, incredulous. "Especially because of what he did to me," Tyler replied. "If he doesn't learn from this, if he doesn't change, then my suffering was for nothing. But if he becomes a better person, if he uses this experience to treat others with kindness and respect, then maybe something good came out of something terrible." Jax smiled. "You're going to be okay, Tyler. You're already more than okay." Outside the courthouse, reporters tried to get statements from Tyler. But Jax and Daniel formed a protective barrier, guiding him to the car. One reporter managed to shout a question that Tyler heard clearly. "Do you forgive Marcus Bellamy?" Tyler paused, considering. Then he turned and spoke clearly into the cameras. "I'm working on it. Forgiveness isn't something that happens instantly. It's a process. But I believe people can change. And I believe in giving second chances. So yes, I'm working on forgiveness." The clip would be played on every news station that evening. Tyler Grant, his face still bearing the scars of his assault, speaking about forgiveness and redemption. That night, Tyler sat in his apartment with Jax, Daniel, and Sarah, sharing pizza and processing the day's events. 18 months, Daniel said. "He'll be out in a little over a year with good behavior." "And then what?" Sarah asked. "Does he just go back to his life?" "He doesn't have a life to go back to," Jax pointed out. "His company is gone. His marriage is over. His reputation is destroyed. He'll have to rebuild from nothing." "Good," Daniel said fiercely. "Let him see what it's like to struggle." But Tyler was thoughtful. Maybe that's exactly what he needs. To live without wealth and power, to see the world from the perspective of people he used to look down on. Maybe that's how he learns. Or maybe he's just a rich asshole who'll go right back to being a rich asshole once he's out, Daniel countered. "Maybe," Tyler agreed. "But I have to believe people can change. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?" Jax raised his beer bottle. "To Tyler Grant, who's braver and more forgiving than most people could ever be." They clinked bottles, and Tyler felt something he hadn't felt in 3 months. Hope. Not for his scars to disappear, not for the past to change, but hope that the future could be better. That justice had been served. That maybe, just maybe, both he and Marcus Bellamy could emerge from this tragedy as better versions of themselves. 14 months later, on a cool October morning, Marcus Bellamy walked out of Charming County Jail, a free man. He wore donated clothes, jeans, and a plain blue t-shirt provided by the prison re-entry program, and carried a small bag containing his few possessions. No expensive suits, no designer watches, no Mercedes waiting at the curb. Just Marcus, alone, facing a world that had moved on without him. The media circus that had surrounded his arrest and sentencing had faded. Newer scandals and stories had captured public attention. Marcus Bellamy was yesterday's news, a cautionary tale already half forgotten by the world that had once condemned him. But Marcus hadn't forgotten. During his 14 months behind bars, he'd had nothing but time to think, to remember, to examine every choice that had led to that moment in Riverside Cafe when he'd thrown hot coffee in a stranger's face. He'd participated in every program the jail offered: anger management, counseling, education classes. He'd worked in the jail kitchen, learning humility through serving meals to other inmates. He'd read books he'd never made time for before: philosophy, psychology, memoirs of people who'd overcome hardship. And he'd written letters to Tyler Grant that he never sent because the restraining order prohibited contact. Letters to his ex-wife Catherine, apologizing for years of emotional neglect and arrogance. Letters to his former employees, acknowledging how his toxic leadership had created a dysfunctional workplace. And letters to himself, documenting his journey from arrogant businessman to humbled human being. The person who met Marcus at the jail gate wasn't a lawyer or a friend. It was Father William Morrison from St. Joseph's Catholic Church, a man Marcus had never met before his incarceration, but who had been conducting the jail's weekly faith services. "Marcus," Father Morrison greeted him warmly, extending a hand. "Welcome back to the world." "Thank you for coming, Father," Marcus said, shaking his hand. "And thank you for everything you did for me inside." "I didn't do anything. You did the work. I just provided a space for reflection." Father Morrison gestured to his modest sedan. "Come on, let's get you settled." As they drove through Charming, Marcus looked out the window at the town he'd once felt he owned. Everything looked the same, yet completely different. Or maybe he was the one who had changed. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked. "St. Joseph's has a transitional housing program for people re-entering society after incarceration. It's not fancy. A small room, shared bathroom, communal kitchen, but it's clean and safe. And it gives people a stable place to land while they figure out their next steps." "Father, I appreciate this, but I can't afford. It's free for the first 3 months. After that, we ask for a small contribution if you're working. But there's no pressure. This is about giving people a chance to rebuild." Marcus felt emotion tighten his throat. "Thank you." The room at St. Joseph's was indeed small. A single bed, a desk, a narrow closet. But it was clean, and it was his. Marcus sat on the bed, looking around at this space that represented his new reality. No penthouse, no luxury, just a simple room and the opportunity to start over. That evening, Father Morrison invited Marcus to join the community dinner in the church hall. 20 people gathered around long tables, some in recovery from addiction, some recently released from incarceration, some experiencing homelessness, all working to rebuild their lives. "Everyone, this is Marcus," Father Morrison introduced him. "He's joining our community." The welcomes were genuine, but cautious. These were people who'd learned to be wary of newcomers, who'd been burned before. Marcus understood. He'd have to earn their trust. "Hi, Marcus," a woman in her 40s said. "I'm Linda Chen. I run the community garden program." "You garden?" "I've never tried," Marcus admitted. "Well, we always need help. If you're interested, come by tomorrow morning." "I will. Thank you." Over the next few weeks, Marcus fell into a routine. Mornings in the community garden, learning to coax life from soil. Afternoons applying for jobs, a humbling process when your resume includes a felony conviction, and your previous employer was yourself. Evenings at support group meetings, listening to others' stories, and slowly, carefully, sharing his own. The job search was discouraging. Restaurants, retail stores, warehouses, all saw his application, saw the conviction, and politely declined. Marcus had expected this, but the reality of rejection after rejection was harder than he'd anticipated. "Don't give up," Linda encouraged him after a particularly frustrating day. "The right opportunity will come along." It came from an unexpected source. Thomas Green, the police officer who'd been part of the original investigation, approached Marcus one afternoon in the community garden. "Marcus Bellamy? Officer Green asked, though he clearly recognized him. Marcus straightened, wary. That's me. Is something wrong? No, nothing wrong. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about a job opportunity. Marcus blinked in surprise. A job? My brother-in-law runs a construction company. They need laborers. Hard physical work, not glamorous. But it's honest pay. And he's willing to hire people with records if they're committed to second chances. Marcus felt a surge of unexpected hope. Why would you do this for me? After everything? Officer Green's expression was serious, but not unkind. Because I've seen a lot of people go through the justice system. Some come out worse. Some come out unchanged. And a very few come out genuinely trying to be better. From what I've heard from Father Morrison and others, you're in that last category. My brother-in-law, Kevin Brennan, believes in giving people opportunities. If you're willing to work hard, he's willing to give you a chance. I am, Marcus said immediately. I'll work harder than anyone. Good. Be at Brennan Construction tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Kevin will put you on a crew. The work was backbreaking. Marcus spent his days hauling materials, mixing concrete, cleaning job sites, and learning construction from the ground up. His hands, once soft from years behind a desk, developed calluses and blisters. His body ached in ways he'd never experienced. But there was something profoundly satisfying about physical labor, about building something tangible with his own hands. His co-workers were initially suspicious. Word had gotten around about who Marcus Bellamy was and what he'd done. But Kevin Brennan had made it clear. Marcus deserved a fair shot, and anyone who had a problem with that could find work elsewhere. Gradually, through consistent hard work and genuine humility, Marcus earned grudging respect. He showed up early, stayed late, never complained, and learned quickly. He treated everyone, from the newest laborer to Kevin himself, with respect and courtesy. You're doing good work, Bellamy, Kevin told him after 6 weeks. I'm making you a permanent hire, not just day labor anymore. Full benefits, steady pay. Thank you, Kevin. I won't let you down. See that you don't. As Marcus rebuilt his life piece by piece, he thought often about Tyler Grant. The restraining order prohibited contact, but that didn't stop Marcus from wanting to know how Tyler was doing, whether his recovery was progressing, whether he'd been able to move forward with his life. One Saturday, Marcus was working in the community garden when Father Morrison approached with a visitor, Jax Teller. Marcus recognized him immediately. During his trial preparation, his lawyers had briefed him on the key players. Jax Teller, the man who had orchestrated his downfall, who had ensured justice was served. Marcus Bellamy, Jax said, his tone neutral. Father Morrison said you'd want to meet me. Marcus stood, wiping dirt from his hands, his heart pounding. Mr. Teller, yes. I've wanted to thank you. Thank me? Jax's expression was skeptical. For what? For making sure I faced consequences? For supporting Tyler? For not letting me buy my way out of what I did? Marcus took a breath. I deserved everything that happened to me, and you made sure it happened. So, thank you. Jax studied him for a long moment. Father Morrison says you've been doing well, working hard, staying out of trouble. I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying to be better than I was. How's the anger management going? It's helping. I've learned that my anger was really about fear. Fear of not being in control. Fear of being seen as weak. Fear of not measuring up. Once I understood that, I could start working on it. Jax nodded slowly. I came here because Tyler asked me to check on you. Marcus's breath caught. Tyler, he asked about me? He wants to know if you're genuine, if the remorse you showed at sentencing was real or just for the judge. It was real, Marcus said urgently. It is real. Every day I wake up thinking about what I did to him. Every time I look in a mirror, I see the man who threw hot coffee in someone's face because I was inconvenienced. And I hate that man. I'm working every single day to not be him anymore. Words are easy, Jax said. Actions matter. Then judge me by my actions. I'm working an honest job. I'm living simply. I'm helping in this community. I'm in therapy. I'm doing everything I can to be someone different. Jax was quiet. Then, Tyler's doing okay. The surgeries helped. He still has scars, but they've faded. He's back to work. Not delivery driving anymore, but he's managing a bike repair shop. He's doing well. Marcus felt tears sting his eyes. I'm glad. I'm so glad he's okay. He's more than okay. He's thriving. Jax paused. But he carries what you did to him. Those scars aren't just physical. I know, and I'm sorry. I know sorry doesn't fix it, doesn't undo it. But I am sorry. Every day. Jax reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Tyler wrote you a letter. The restraining order prohibits you from contacting him, but it doesn't prohibit him from contacting you. He wanted you to have this. Marcus took the envelope with shaking hands. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't read it. Jax turned to leave, then stopped. Bellamy? Don't waste this. Tyler's giving you something rare. Grace and the chance to prove you've changed. Honor that. I will. I swear I will. After Jax left, Marcus sat on a garden bench and opened the envelope. Tyler's handwriting was neat and careful. Marcus, Jax told me you wanted to know how I'm doing. I'm doing okay. The physical scars are healing, and so are the emotional ones. It's been a long road, but I'm getting there. I asked Jax to check on you because I needed to know if your apology was real, if you were genuinely trying to change, or if it was all an act for the court. Jax says you're working hard, living humbly, and genuinely trying to be better. I want to believe that's true. What you did to me changed my life. I still have nightmares sometimes. I still flinch around hot liquids. I have scars that will never completely fade. You took something from me that day, my sense of safety, my ability to trust that people won't hurt me for no reason. But I've also gained things. I learned how strong I am. I learned who my real friends are. I learned about grace and forgiveness, not as abstract concepts, but as choices I have to make every single day. I'm writing to tell you that I forgive you, not because you earned it, not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger and hurt was poisoning me. Forgiveness is for me, not for you. It's how I take my power back. I hope you really are changing. I hope you're becoming someone who treats others with kindness and respect. I hope that someday, years from now, you'll be a person who can't even imagine doing what you did to me. If you are that person, if you really do change, then maybe something good came out of something terrible. And that would mean something. I don't know if we'll ever meet again. The restraining order is in place, and honestly, I'm not sure I'm ready for that anyway. But I wanted you to know, I forgive you. I hope you can forgive yourself. And I hope you spend the rest of your life being someone worth forgiving. Tyler Grant Marcus read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. Then he folded it carefully and placed it back in the envelope. He would keep it always, a reminder of the grace he'd been given and the man he was working to become. 2 years later, Tyler Grant stood in front of Teller Morrow Bike Repair and Custom Shop, the business he now managed. Business was good. His reputation for quality work and fair prices had spread throughout Charming and beyond. The scars on his face had faded to thin white lines, barely noticeable unless you knew to look for them. Daniel Shaw worked as his lead mechanic, and Sarah Mitchell had left the cafe to handle their customer service and bookkeeping. It was a small team, but they were family. Jax stopped by regularly, ostensibly to check on his bike, but really to check on Tyler. Their friendship, forged in trauma and justice, had deepened into something like brotherhood. "You hear about Bellamy?" Jax asked one afternoon, leaning against the shop counter. "No, what?" "He's been promoted at Brennan Construction, assistant foreman now. Kevin says he's one of the best workers he's ever had. Reliable, skilled, treats everyone with respect." Tyler nodded, feeling a complicated mix of emotions. "I'm glad. I meant what I wrote in that letter. I hope he really has changed." "Looks like he has." Jax paused. "The restraining order expires next month. He could contact you if he wanted. Do you think he will?" "I don't know. Maybe he thinks the best way to honor your forgiveness is to leave you alone." Tyler considered that. Maybe he's right. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the shop, Tyler reflected on his journey. The assault had been horrific, traumatic, life-changing. But it had also revealed depths of strength he hadn't known he possessed. It had shown him who his true friends were. It had taught him about grace, justice, and the complicated space between revenge and redemption. He still carried scars, both visible and invisible. But he also carried something else. The knowledge that he'd faced something terrible and emerged stronger. That he'd chosen forgiveness over bitterness. That he'd allowed justice to work while leaving room for redemption. And somewhere across town, Marcus Bellamy was learning the same lessons from the other side. Learning that consequences don't have to mean the end. That redemption is possible, but only through genuine change. That grace, when given freely, can transform both the giver and the receiver. The hot coffee that Marcus had thrown in anger had burned Tyler's face, but the flames of that assault had ultimately forged something unexpected. Two men learning different versions of the same lesson about humanity, accountability, and the long, difficult road to becoming better than you were. Epilogue. 5 years later. The annual Charming Community Festival was in full swing. Vendors lining Main Street, families enjoying food and entertainment, the sense of community strong and vibrant. Tyler Grant, now 31 and the proud owner of his bike shop, walked through the festival with his girlfriend, Emma Rodriguez, Michelle's younger sister, whom he'd met through Jax 2 years earlier. "Tyler!" a voice called out. He turned to see Father Morrison waving from the St. Joseph's community booth. "Father Morrison, how are you?" "Wonderful! Come see what our transitional housing residents have created." The booth displayed beautiful woodwork, garden produce, and artwork created by people rebuilding their lives. And manning the booth, helping customers and explaining the program, was Marcus Bellamy. Tyler stopped, his heart rate increasing slightly. They hadn't seen each other in 5 years. The restraining order had expired long ago, but neither had reached out, honoring an unspoken agreement that distance was best. Marcus looked up and froze. For a moment, neither man moved. Then Marcus did something simple and profound. He nodded respectfully, a gesture that acknowledged their shared history without demanding anything. Tyler found himself walking forward. Emma squeezed his hand supportively. "Hello, Marcus." "Hello, Tyler." Marcus's voice was quiet, respectful. "You look well." "Thank you." "So do you." And it was true. Marcus looked healthy, his face tanned from outdoor work, his eyes clear and kind. He wore a simple t-shirt with the St. Joseph's community logo, and there was a peace about him that Tyler remembered being completely absent from the angry man in Riverside Cafe all those years ago. "I manage the woodworking program now," Marcus explained, gesturing to the beautiful furniture on display. "We teach residents carpentry skills they can use for employment after they leave the program." "That's wonderful," It is. Marcus paused. Tyler, I know I don't have the right to ask, but are you happy? Are you doing okay? Tyler smiled. I am. The shop is thriving. I have good people in my life. I'm happy. I'm glad. So glad. Marcus's eyes were bright with emotion. Thank you for the letter you sent all those years ago. Thank you for your forgiveness. It saved my life. You saved your own life, Tyler replied. I just gave you permission to try. They stood there for a moment, two men whose lives had intersected in violence and pain, but who had both chosen different paths, one toward healing, one toward redemption. I won't take up more of your time, Marcus said, but I wanted you to know. I think about what I did every single day, and every single day I try to be someone who could never do that again. I believe you, Tyler said, and I'm proud of you. That's not easy to say, but it's true. I'm proud of the work you've done to change. Marcus's composure cracked slightly. Thank you. That means more than you could ever know. As Tyler and Emma walked away, she asked softly, Are you okay? Yeah, Tyler said, surprised to find it was true. I really am. He glanced back once to see Marcus helping a customer, laughing at something they'd said, fully present and engaged. A man who had lost everything and built something better from the ruins. Justice had been served. Consequences had been faced. And somehow, improbably, both men had found their way to something like peace. The scars remained. They would always remain. But they were no longer wounds. They were reminders of a journey through darkness toward light, of the terrible things humans are capable of, and the extraordinary capacity for change and growth when we choose it. And in that choice, to face what we've done, to truly change, to offer and accept grace, lay the possibility of redemption.